I can't breathe again. God damn, I can't breathe. Our voices have been quarantined. COVID-19, 60s to 1619. Jamestown choked me, sold me. Shackles hold me tightly by my neck, and I can't breathe again. 2020 ain't no fucking vision on your tail eye vision of why I'm living like a prejudged villain. CNN, Fox News commentating and debating why I can't fucking breathe again. How many times do I have to say this? I'm taking the gloves off because racism is the main deadliness that's contagious. I just got diagnosed and received a degree in criminology, but fuck your education. I don't want to learn shit from a nation that's racist. The definition of policing, overseeing property. I can't understand how the white man never understood how to handle the human properly. Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the noble Drew Ali spoke constantly, consciously, and cautiously about this ungodly prophecy. And you still worried about your prophecy? Amazon deliveries, handouts, hands up, don't shoot, but now your knees are on my neck, stopping me from occupying oxygen that God obviously brought for me, for I am his offspring, his true seed. Motherfucker, get off of me, please. I can't breathe. Please, somebody call the police on the police, cause I can't breathe again, and everything hurts. Your words, your knees, your nerve, your white wife who had the nerve to say she was frightened by black life while my face is on the fucking curb. I ain't scared of no fucking virus. This mask is for a riot. I can't breathe, and the media telling me to keep quiet, suffocating me into silence. The devil's greatest trick, convincing the world that we were the ones who were violent. Nah, they the ones deficient, insufficient comprehension of their barbaric existence. Y'all worried about this pandemic when our grandparents still trying to recover from when you gave them syphilis. Because in our blood, we scared of the white cells attacking our immunity. The system defective, infected. So who has the disease, you or me? Because I'm at a dis-ease, disadvantage, dismantled disability of your white knees killing me. Been on our neck for centuries. Knees or trees, either way you still lynching me. And what did we ever do to you except for build and make America great initially? Fuck again, cause I can't breathe. Potentially you missing me, clearly not listening. Intentionally, we are a people of peace, but like Pac said, I ain't no killer, but your policies are pushing me further from the legislation, jumping off the education, while your skinheads, the damnation, and your clandestine rhetoric will forever be evident. Fuck the elite in the top 3%, I'm heaven sent. I was born Asiatic, and you made me asthmatic, so fuck your vaccines and masks. You gon' worry about these hands tomorrow, cause you can't sanitize the past. You may have took my last breath, but you'll never colonize my spirit. Standing there watching while I die. I can't breathe, and you still can't hear it.
Yes. What's going on, family? This is H Soul. You're tuned in to the Thursday edition of Righteous Rage Podcast with me, your host, H Soul. That's a deep and heavy video, so I know that I want to give people a moment to go ahead and ingest that, right? Because it's no small thing, right? I really appreciate Nick Cannon for having done that. I think it's a brilliant piece of media that he put forward, you know, and so really appreciative of that piece of media that he did. We got quite a show lined up for you tonight. I got my main man back on here. I told you we're going to be doing this on a regular basis for no other reason than there's very few people that are on the front lines. Like my man T-Rob is on the front lines, and just in the last week since I had him on, more has happened in that last week than happened in the previous 3 weeks before. Like, it's been on and cracking. Like, he's really been making some very strong moves, and so I wanted to have him back on so that we could get a first account of what's taking place on the front lines of the protests that are taking place across the country in particular, but here in Denver, I want to shout out the people that I see coming on. See friends and family lining up. It's good to check y'all out. What's up, Howard? I see my man Thomas Wilkins is locked and loaded on here. It's good to have you all here. So let's go ahead and get this work. I don't even have to really introduce my guest. He's a regular on this show because of his track record. And so today we're really going to talk about a report from the front lines, and there's lots going on. There's lots to talk about. I want to make sure that we have enough time to do it, so I'm not going to even sit around and play and jabber too much about much else because we have some great stuff lined up for you. I have a surprise for him too, but I'm gonna play that a little later. But without further ado, let me bring on my man, Terrance T. Rob, the realist, to the podcast. What's up, family? What's going on with you? All is well on this side, man. Really appreciate you coming on the show again. You're doing 1,000,001 things as usual. You got a full-time gig. You banging on the internet. You got to go downtown and do some more banging and leadership down there too. I hope you're taking care of yourself in the midst of all this moving and shaking you're doing.
I mean, I've been through worse than this, so that's what I'm built for.
Right?
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah,
you know. So
I wanted to have you on once again to really get your insights into the protest from a grassroots organizer perspective. You know, it's funny. I was watching there was this thing on Channel 9 a couple of days ago. And on Channel 9, they were having this conversation. And there were people, you know, friends of mine like Ryan Ross and Jice Johnson and Elizabeth Epps, Omar Montgomery, that they were talking about and having this conversation with. And what I felt was like really missing from that conversation was someone with your particular voice. Not that those people aren't grassroots, particularly Jice and Elizabeth come from a grassroots perspective, but that's a female perspective, which is valid, and we need to hear that. But this was another murder of a black male. We have a black man. I just felt like there was a grassroots. Let me just say it outright. I felt like your voice was missing from that conversation. And whenever these conversations are had on those type of platforms, there always seems to be that real gritty. That's the word I'm looking for. The real gritty perspective that is lacking from this conversation. And so at least on those platforms, and that's why I felt like it's important that we create our own media so that conversation can be had. So let me just ask you the first question straight out. Why were you out there? And it's important to frame that question. With everything that you got going on, father of babies and of children, full-time gig, everything that you got going on, why did you feel like it was important for you to be out?
I mean, because the white man has his knee on our neck, and that's why. Because I am a father. I have a son doing a life sentence in San Quentin right now for a homicide he didn't even commit. And the state of California knows he did not commit this homicide and gave him a life sentence anyways and took this young man's life. And this is my child. I have another son who could be murdered by the police. I could be murdered by the police. Your son could be murdered by the police. So I'm out there because of redlining, of black codes, slave codes, you know, the way we're treated, systemic racism, school to prison pipeline. You know, our elders are gone. Where are the leaders right now? Where are the leaders? When somebody says, where are the leaders, who are we looking for? I mean, it has to be you. Your father's not here anymore. So you have to continue that work. You know, my father is still here, but my grandmother is gone, who was the patriarch of my family. I got to continue feeding the community like she was. I got to continue to to do what I can, man, to keep that last vestige of community, of hope, of pride, of strength. And I'm young enough, I'm strong enough, I'm intelligent enough. So since they want to put their foot on our neck, I'm strong enough to shake it off my neck. And I wanna fight for my people. I want to be a good example for my people.
So is it just me? And you can just tell me if it's just me, because sometimes it is just me. Is it me, or does it seem like your voice ends up getting muted out from these type of conversations whenever media is trying to get a perspective, or there's these forums that are held in the community? Is it me that you seem to be getting muted out these conversations? And if it's not just me, and you see it happening as well, what is the reason behind that?
So I'm gonna answer from my perspective because I can't say why. There's some people who don't want to hear from me, but I'm gonna just answer this like this. I used to get a ton of media attention. Everyone knows this. If you're from Denver, you've been here for a while. I was really the main voice at the time. Now I'm not the main voice. So at the time, there was nobody criticizing Hancock. There was nobody criticizing these athletes who weren't doing anything for the community. There was nobody standing up to Crips and Bloods. So I was the go-to guy. I have to say, though, man, within the last 6 or 7 years, Denver has gotten some phenomenal activism and some phenomenal voices out here who are strong, who are powerful. And now it went from mainly me being the go-to guy to there's literally 20, 30 voices out here. You name some of them. We got Jason, we got yourself, and we got all these different people out here who've been out here for years now, speaking this message. So not only am I not the go-to guy anymore, and I can respect that, but also there are activists and people who I think that they feel like I will overshadow what they're trying to do because, activism, we've talked about this. So activism is an industry. Would you want a better rapper opening up for you if you was already signed and the rapper wasn't signed? Activism is almost like the rap industry now. Everybody trying to get signed.
Mm-hmm.
So, there are organizers who I've never had an issue with them. We don't even disagree. But when they organize things, they act like they're radical, but really they kind of want that more palatable voice for the same white supremacy that we're fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm not palatable to white elected officials and black college educated elected officials who be playing political games behind the scenes. But when we start movements like this, we organize the movement, but they want the camera time like they're radical because they're elected officials.
I had a conversation with earlier today with a sister who's from Denver. She's not living there now, and I told her that you were going to be on the show, and her response was the exact opposite of response of what you're saying. She was like, "Yo, he's the one of the only ones that are out there saying what he's saying from like a grassroots hood perspective. Everything else seems to be filtered through this what's palatable to the mainstream, what's palatable, and so there's a thirst for your brand of I call it shit talking. I don't know what you call it is, and I don't mean shit talking like you can't back it up, because you absolutely can, but I mean it is some of the best shit talking that's out there. And so there's a thirst for that now, and I think the more that we are exposed to the Blackness leadership class, and the more that we're exposed to the fastest rhetoric that people really appreciate, hearing some real ish, so to speak. Which brings me to my next point. Speaking of real ish, coming from a real ish perspective, what are your initial observations of this past week that you've seen out or down at the march? Just your initial observations, your feelings, and your thoughts about what it is that you're seeing.
I mean, so I think like the first few days, man, it was something new. It was something that it was really a big powerful statement for so many different people to come out. Then, of course, we had the people who were breaking windows and things like that. Which the media tried to use that to damper the movement and to talk about the so-called riot, which it really was not a riot to me, but we'll have that discussion another time. But anyways, so they tried to use that to damper it. But really, I'm gonna say something. I'm proud of the community. I'm proud of every single day everybody's out there. I'm proud of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, leading all the way up till this Thursday. People have been occupying that space. People have been getting along with one another. People have been. I mean, I seen even Hancock. He joined. He joined the march. Like, that's the kind of fake shit I'm talking about, though. That's
So
that fake shit.
I know people are going to think that we timed this up together, that this was a part of the show. But when I told you I had an oldie but goodie surprise, I want to play something for you and get your thoughts, your initial thoughts on it. Since you mentioned that particular name, I want to bring this up.
A child of this community. I've divided.
Say that again.
I've divided.
One more again.
I've divided.
Some of you would call that a Freudian slip.
I've devoted my life. Today, we not only celebrate Black lives, we celebrate all lives. Dr. King.
But you see, that's what these type of electeds will try to run of us. They'll try to run on us this whole all lives matter deal.
More African American adults are under correctional control today, in prison or jail, on probation or parole, than were enslaved in 1850, a decade before the Civil War began.
All lives matter.
In 2004, more black men were disenfranchised than in 1870.
Would have done this mayor, this administration is good for one thing and one thing only. Hit it.
Hambo! Hambo! Hambo, Hambo, have you heard? Pop's gonna buy me a mockingbird. And if that mockingbird don't sing, Pop's gonna buy me a diamond ring. And if that diamond ring don't shine, Pop's gonna take to the private town. Hambo!
So I can't help to think that's an oldie but goodie. I can't help but to remember, and this is the mayor that's down there taking photo shoots today and yesterday is the same mayor, and I got it on tape, that said that black men need to watch their biases that we have towards the police and take responsibility for our biases that we have towards the police, so that, and why we end up continuing getting killed by the police. This same mayor that is now marching on the 6th or 7th day, by the way. What are your thoughts on the mayor being down there?
So I think that this is an example of the curse of East Denver black misleadership class. The curse, see, we know how to handle some skinheads in Denver. We know how to handle some white folks. We know how to work hard, but we've gotten black and brown people into office too. We busted our ass to get him in the office. And as soon as we get him in the office, what do? Bring us eminent domain for white people. What do? Say that black men need to watch our biases. What do? They go to Juneteenth and say to a crowd of 5,000 people, all lives matter. That's what they do. They leave out anybody who's black with a true revolutionary voice because we are not palatable to their white developer, millionaire, racist, bigot friends. Michael Hancock has done nothing but hurt East Denver. It's like I said on your last program. As soon as he got into office, as soon as we helped him get in, his first act of power was to bring on the urban camping ban. At that time, it was against Occupy Wall Street Denver. People don't understand the history of the urban camping ban. The urban camping ban was birthed because of Occupy Denver,
That's
which came
right.
out of Occupy Wall Street.
That's right.
After,
I was covering that when all those folks were right in front of the state capitol and the city and county
yeah,
building. That's when that was developed, and he was
that
one
is
of the
when.
few mayors that were that conservative and almost took a Trumpian-like stance against Occupy
Well, he
Denver.
did. I
Yeah,
think he did take a Trumpian-like stance because now, so man, this guy's very slick. This is a slick young black man. He's very intelligent. He looks dumber than he is. Okay, so he instituted this urban camping ban to knock out Occupy Denver, which he should have been. He should have been in support of Occupy Wall Street since he's such from the hood. He comes from this family, impoverished family, so he understands poverty. That's what he continues to campaign on. You listen to Michael Hancock's campaign story. He's gonna throw out there his inner city upbringing.
credentials. Mm-hmm.
So after they dismantled this Occupy movement, because it was a movement, he kept the urban camping ban instituted because now we have eminent domain, and we cannot have homeless people sleeping around white people where they got to walk around brand new developments and high-rise apartments down there on South Walton Street. They don't want to see those Negroes and those young Mexicans and poor white people sleeping in tents and sleeping around. He did not institute any type of encampments. He did not institute let us bring you washers and dryers. They did not finish Little Tiny Village. They took it from Jerry Burton and those guys whose idea it was, and then they trashed the idea, like Denver's known for. Every time revolutionary activists come up with an idea, we have fake activists or we have fake black and brown elected officials who steal the idea, they co-opt it, then they throw it away while they're having dinners with racist white so-called liberal millionaire people who keep the juice going.
So
they are propped up.
So speaking of co-optation, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but speaking of co-optation, do you feel like the march? Well, I mean, we've already seen the media and seen the infiltration of the march by and is your analysis on this is brilliant. We could see the KKK and the Hawaiian shirts people when they come up and they're breaking windows and burning inside of our march. What we don't usually see and what we're not keen on seeing is when the Black misleadership class shows up to the march and they start to co-opt the march. Do you feel like that's what's happening at this point inside of this rebellion, inside of the uprising that is taking place?
Man, that march that capital been co-opted 8 different times down there. There's so many co-opters down there. But then I'm gonna say this: now that we have more leadership, everybody needs their camera time. Everybody needs that microphone. Everybody needs that picture. You know what I'm saying? Everybody needs to say what they need to say. Some people just need to get it off their chest. So, as far as African Americans and people of color having different agendas and bringing this, because you're not an ex-gang member like me, so like you're an education justice specialist. You know what I'm saying? And you have a different kind of voice. I have a different kind of voice. That I don't mind. Like, we need 50 different black organizations and groups. We all should share that mic. But when we're talking about Mayor Hancock instituted a curfew and his own police department was bullying, beating, and tear gassing peaceful protesters, and then 3 days later, Chief Payson, then he's locking arms with young black men. Michael Hancock has not once ever, not one time has he ever marched with protesters. Has he supported the murder of black men in the city of Denver? Matter of fact, Michael Marshall and the rest of the victims of the Denver Sheriff's Department and Denver Police Departments, they were fighting the families from getting justice, from getting paid from the city.
Yeah, Michael Marshall. We had to fight him in order to get
Marvin Booker.
That's right.
Reverend Booker, Jessica Hernandez, Frank Lobato, Paul Childs. The list goes on and on. We could talk about George Floyd, but for some reason people in Denver just don't want to get this involved about local homicides. So, and we're going to talk about Elijah McClain and Charles Vincent or Charles Carter in the world, but let's talk about Denver's record of not only the sheriff's department, but also the Denver Police Department. They have a bucket of homicides. They have a long list of homicides. Look at what happened to Alex Landau. They nearly beat him to death for making a wrong turn or an illegal a turn without his blinker on. So now all of a sudden, Michael Hancock wants to join in on the parade with young black men. I think it's propped up. I think it's a photo op like Trump just did with that Bible a few days ago. And I think that Michael Hancock, he just has no shame in his game, man. That brother's a trip, man.
Wanda James made the observation that she thinks she's going to run for Congress, and so therefore he needs to continue to keep up this particular image as if he's a man of the people. I just find it just very and again, black people seem to be completely silent or silenced when there's a dissenting voice about that type of black misleadership taking place in this city. And so again, it's really refreshing for you to come from that perspective. But again, I have to ask you, so where do we go from here? If the marches have been co-opted, if being down there now means that, and I have a photo up right now, and here you have, this is in Denver, you have police officers kneeling, you have some reverends kneeling, you have, you know the deal. But now everybody's kneeling. And it seems like a circus event, a kumbaya circus event at this point. Where do we go from here? From your perspective, where do we go from here?
So I do want to say this though. Whatever's positive we can get out of this, if we can't make the police get their ass on their knees and support what Kaepernick's been doing and support what we've been doing, I also want to take away from the positive of that too from my people. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But is it co-opted? Yes. Where have they been when you know how many we average dozens of gang related homicides and shootings and hundreds of shootings in Denver and in the metro area, Aurora, Thornton, all around the metro area. We average dozens of shootings and killings a year in this city. Never were none of those people ever taken the knee. Never were they ever caring. None of them people came to my court date when a bunch of bloods who murder children and literally are in prison for murdering children when they came to attack me. No preachers came and took a knee. No, and it's not just about me. They don't do that for none of us. I've never seen them stand up for you, so when you've been attacked for your advocacy. Mm-hmm. But when those cameras get to rolling, why you got to wear a suit and it's 100 degrees outside, man? I don't play them kind of games, man. Like all that's politicking. It's okay to wear a t-shirt, man. It's okay. Like you're not running for office. You're not running for office right now. I've already talked about my aspirations. Guess what? It's hot right now. I don't need to. I'm not looking for that. I'm not looking for political support. I'm out here fighting for my people right now. I might show up in a slingshot on and some flip flops.
Some flip flops and socks. Which
if I got to.
You mentioned something that and I have another video teed up, and I want us to get into this because now we're about to get into some of the ugly. We're about to get into some of the ugly underbelly of activism, and I don't think there's very few people in this city that know the underbelly of activism, as ugly as it can get, as you do. You know exactly how ugly it can get, and so when we talk about the co-optation of a movement, right? When we talk about the infiltration of a movement, I think that it's important that we frame this discussion and try to do some education around in this discussion. And so I want to bring this up real quick. I want you to take a look at it. I want your thoughts immediately afterwards, if you don't mind.
So you know what? I can't see it. I don't have my computer set up. Should I go set up my computer?
No, you can listen to it. You can hear and hear the same thing.
Okay.
Cool.
Let me see if I can hear it.
All right.
There's only one thing left for you to do. You know what it is. This is an anonymous letter sent by the FBI to Martin Luther King, urging him to commit suicide. He was one of the primary targets for the FBI's illegal surveillance program in the 60s called COINTELPRO.
Okay, right there, I'm going to bring T right back up. But how many of you knew that the United States government actually wrote a letter to King telling him to commit suicide? Did y'all know that? Do they talk about that on the on his birthday? Does the government talk about that when they're celebrating Martin Luther King's birthday? That this government, the FBI, actually sent a letter to Martin Luther King telling him to commit suicide. Those are the facts. That's on top of the letters that they sent to Coretta talking about all other kinds of things that they felt that they were trying to get him in trouble and make his home an unhappy one. But yes, the government actually sent a letter. I'm gonna rewind that a bit so y'all can get that, urging him to commit suicide, telling him there was nothing else for him to do at this point but to commit suicide.
This is an anonymous letter sent by the FBI to Martin Luther King, urging him to commit suicide. He was one of the primary targets for the FBI's illegal surveillance program in the 60s called COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program which targeted many civil rights groups, such as the Black Panthers and the American Indian Movement, and activists like Stokely Carmichael and Malcolm X for more than a decade. The purpose was to, quote, expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, and otherwise neutralize the possible threats against the existing order. The program was exposed in 1971 when a group of activists stole documents from an FBI office on the night of the Muhammad Ali-Joe Frazier fight and leaked them to the press. Today, COINTELPRO is something people recall from the past as the darkest FBI program exposed.
So I want to stop that real quick, just so that you can understand. When they talked about who exposed that, I want to show those faces again so that y'all can get clear that this needs to be and has always been a multinational, multiracial movement. It was three white boys that hopped in there.
When a group of activists stole documents from an FBI office
three white
on the night of
boys.
the Muhammad Ali-Joe Frazier fight and leaked them to the press. Today, COINTELPRO is something people recall from the past as the darkest FBI program exposed so far.
T, I want you to give me your initial thoughts on what you see, and then I want to get in. We're going to get personal too, but I want you to give your initial thoughts of the COINTEL program that played out then as it relates to now. Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
Okay, so then it was actually called the Counterintelligence Program. The FBI has apologized for the assassination of Martin Luther King, even though 3 black men gunned him down. But somehow the FBI has apologized to his family for that. The FBI has also apologized for the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. People also don't know this, but Martin Luther King's mother was assassinated. His mother was assassinated 6 months after him. She was shot to death. Okay, his mother was killed. Okay, so the COINTEL program back then, which was run by J. Edgar Hoover, he said that the Black Panthers were the most extremist, worst group, most dangerous group in America. Even though black people then didn't even make up 13% of the population. I think maybe we made up about 9 or 10%. Don't quote me on that though. Mm-hmm. So now we make up about 13%. Okay, so even though for every 7 white men there's only 1 black man for 7 white men, these white men continue to want to go to war with us. They continue want to brag about fighting us. For every 3 Latinos or 4 Latinos there are now coming up, there's only 1 black man. You know, there's not a lot of black men out here. There is a real genocide that is happening to black men. There's a lot of racism and sexism going on with our black sisters. But when we talk about genocide and a planned genocide to kill the seed of a people, we are the seed, okay? And they are killing the seed. So at that time, COINTELPRO was about targeting leaders, murdering leaders, having fake black misleadership. Look at what happened to Fred Hampton. Look at what happened to Martin Luther King. The floor plans of these men's houses or their whereabouts were exposed by their photographers and black men who were part of their movements. Look at Nat Turner. Nat Turner slaughtered over 60 white people and started the conversation to make white people want to end slavery. There were over 300 rebellions. Rumor has it over 90% of those rebellions were squashed because black informants went and told white people, who went and brought 7 white men to every 1 black man, and they had guns and knives and horses. And we're talking about poor black people revolting on feet with bricks and bread that they baked in the white man's oven.
Mm.
So and some pig ears and some pig feet in the bag, running through the woods.
Right.
I mean, now come on, now we're talking about slaves revolting. They had nothing, and guess who squashed those movements? Black people going to white people, selling us out.
So that's a perfect entree to what we're about to have that we're going to talk about with the time that we have left with this show. For those of you who follow you on Facebook, they know that. Well, let me take another step back from that. One of the most powerful things that I've heard you say in the last week is that you are against whoever is destroying the black community, not just white people who are and corporations and police officers, right? But also the enemy within, right? That destroys. And you have caught some of the most vicious blowback from making that statement that I've seen on these interwebs in a minute. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? About, first of all, the stance. Why do you make that statement? What is that statement rooted in, that you're against anybody that is destroying the black community, including black people themselves?
Because even though I am well aware of systemic racism, so let's start there. Systemic racism is the fault of many of the ills of the black community. Okay? But we're still men. I'm a grown man. I'm not going to keep blaming the white man for every decision I make. The white man is, I'm not upset. I don't give a damn about the white man, to keep it real with you. Like, I think some activists get so obsessed with talking about the white man that's all they think about is the white man, the white man. It's like, man, like the white man, you defeated. You acting like you not defeated, but all you think about is the white man. There's actually some pretty intelligent black men and women out here who've used that intelligence to create tribalism out of our poverty from systemic racism.
Poverty.
And instead of us using that poverty to be Black Panthers to continue that, even a friend of mine named Bone, man, Clebone Sloan in LA, he has a documentary called Bastards of the Party.
Yeah, it's an excellent documentary, by the way. I'm going to pull that up while you're talking, but yeah.
We are the bastards of the party. We are the bastard offspring of the Black Panther movement when it was squashed. Here we have the Crips now. Here we have the Bloods, okay? These movements started off with some brothers who say that they wanted to protect the community, but then I watched streetgangs.com and I talked to brothers and sisters in LA I know, and they be like, man, we was just cripping. we was doing that. So now that there's Crips in their 50s and 60s, there's Crips who were part of the Watts rebellions, the rebellion of '92. Now, Cripping and being the Blood has more revolutionary leaders that's taking it away from being in gangs, taking it away from the violence and the drive-bys and the total destruction. But we still have way too many Crips or Bloods that work for the FBI, that work for the Denver Police Department. I am a victim and a survivor of Crips and Bloods who work for the police department, sending some young men to assassinate me. You know my story. People know I had to defend myself. These young men, come to find out, were working for the police, for the FBI, and still claiming Crip and Blood gangs, murdering children, starting gang wars. When I say it's not just one black man or Breonna Taylor or Ahmaud Arbery, we ain't talking about 3 or 4 individuals. We talking about 50, 60 people in Denver alone. At one point in time, Los Angeles was averaging 1,000 murders a year in the 80s and 90s. Chicago right now is still averaging 700 some murders. So am I talking the same stuff that Candace lady's talking? No, because she tried to say on some racist stuff for the white man, that sister, we never talk about black people killing black people. No, we've been doing Hill to Hood. I've been doing Hill to Hood 15 years, 10 years now. We've been doing Prodigal Son. We had the Truce of Nine Deuce. The Truce of Nine Deuce was how many years ago?
Mm-hmm.
We've been 20 years ago. We've been talking about Crips and Bloods killing us. But still too often we get 15,000 people down at the Capitol when the black man gets killed by a white man. But when Lil Cuckoo from up the block kills Lil Kiki, we know Lil Cuckoo, he ain't in prison. Lil Cuckoo raps about murders. Lil Cuckoo got 50 Negroes dancing with guns and they waving them in the camera and they in the south side of Chicago. Don't nobody want to see Lil Cuckoo. Lil Cuckoo Sambo. Lil Cuckoo will beat you to death like they did in the book of Uncle Tom's Cabin. See, Uncle Tom was not a sellout. If you understand the book of Uncle Tom, the master wanted Uncle Tom to make black women pick more cotton and beat them. He wanted Uncle Tom to be his right hand. Uncle Tom refused to beat these black women and make them pick more cotton. So Sambo and Gumbo told Master, we will beat those women and we'll make them pick more cotton if you give us more food. And Sambo and Gumbo were young, strong black men who could. We talking about a lot of women, and we're talking about Uncle Tom, who can stand up to strapping, young, powerful, black, angry men who's enslaved, and saying, "We will beat these women for you. We just need extra food." Not only did Sambo and Gumbo beat these women for the master, they also beat Uncle Tom to death. They killed Uncle Tom because he refused to beat these sisters. Then they snitched on the Underground Railroad. Go read the book.
And
So,
how do you relate that to what's taking place now?
I'm gonna give you an example. We're down at the Capitol protesting. We got thousands of people. I got a bullhorn in my hand. I got 1,000 people listening to me speak. We shift gears. We go down to Aurora PD to go protest for Elijah McClain and the
Oh,
Charlotte Carter.
oh,
While I'm down at Aurora protesting, I got an OG Crip named Brian Brown, aka Blaine Blade, on Facebook on a lady's comments, pretty much saying he's gonna rape me and beat my tattoos off of me because I was on Fox 31 snitching. The last time I was on Fox 31, me and you were down at the Aurora City Jail protesting the Aurora police. And what was I saying to the Aurora police? So do I even need to prove myself?
no, you
This
don't. You was in their
this
face.
guy,
I got the video. It was really good, actually. I had never seen another black male outside of. Yeah, you were giving them the business, right? And they had snipers on the roof. Darlene Jones, who's on this thread, was there. She saw
yeah.
how that went down.
So while I'm at Aurora getting back in their face, I'm protesting the police all week. I got Crips and Bloods online talking about they're gonna rape me and beat my tattoos off of me, and I'm a snitch. Okay, that's provocateur stuff. Come to find out, these same active gang members who are in their 40s and 50s, still recruiting kids, still wearing red and blue bandanas, have not been down to the Capitol or to the Aurora Municipal Center, not in one time because they work for the police, are calling me a snitch while I'm protesting police brutality for our people. So, that's an example of how COINTELPRO is being used today. COINTELPRO is actually not a program that is housed in the FBI anymore. There is a real life program now with the ATF because of all the flack COINTELPRO got with the FBI. The ATF calls it Project Safe Neighborhoods. And their main goal is to recruit active, powerful gang members to tell them about weapons cases. But if you are a powerful, active Crip, how do you become a powerful, active Crip if you never killed nobody or beat nobody down? Your own homies call you a fake. How do you become a Blood if you've never murdered somebody? Okay? You become a Blood when you murder somebody. You become an OG when you murder somebody. So, yes, if you are going to be a gang member who is with Project Safe Neighborhoods, then you have to be a dangerous gang member. And now you are a dangerous gang member who works for the ATF and is out here really under contract to push Crenshaw Mafia Bloods or push a Crip gang. That is what the police are doing to us. Instead of letting me protest and these brothers joining me, I'm arguing half of my day with a bunch of Bloods and Crips threatening my life.
Well, not
Who
only
work
did
for
I
the
see it
police.
was Bloods and Crips, I saw that there was quite a few, which surprised me, to be honest with you, quite a few women who you would think who have been mistreated by these groups, right? To a particular degree, actually were defending that behavior and also, attacking you on you standing up to it.
And I'm gonna keep it real with you. I'm built to last. I'm built for that. I don't mind it. I don't even get mad. If you see, I'm silly enough to go with them. I'm not playing no super activist role. You're an activist. You shouldn't be defending yourself. I'm not trying to get into office, at least not right now. I'm doing this. We at war right now, man. I told you I don't care if I'm musty. I don't care what I'm wearing. I don't care what's going on, man. My breath probably stinks right now. I ain't even tripping. You know what I mean? So I'll brush it later. Right
I
now,
hear
I'm
you.
doing righteous rage. You understand what I'm saying?
I hear
I'm not
you.
afraid of no Crips. I'm not afraid of no Bloods. But what does happen is when these Crips and Bloods start attacking me, everybody gets afraid of me. Everybody gets afraid to be around me. And everybody says, you shouldn't address them. You doing a bigger movement. That's the problem. We love to yell at Whitey, who is killing us, but we don't see Whitey that much. We don't see the white man as much, but we know all the Crips, and they know where we live. We know the Bloods. I was a Blood. And we are afraid of these black men who are working for these racist white people because they will come kill us. They'll come throw a brick through your house, so before they go throw a brick at the Capitol.
And I think that's the, we have to understand that that's absolutely by design. That is why the Black Panther Party had to be dismantled, so that these young brothers and sisters would lose the political education that is necessary in order for them to point bricks. If you're going to throw a brick, that you at least throw it in the right direction and not into your own camp. It makes perfect sense when you look at it through the COINTELPRO lens of when you pull political education away from young black and brown, indigenous and white youth, so that they become focused on each other and destroying each other in that process. And then when you have somebody speak out against it, for them to become a target is almost, not almost, it is the exact definition of when you have somebody that comes from to support you, that you end up throwing stones and that you end up murdering and pushing out, what's healthy for us. And so with these last 10 minutes or 5 minutes that we have, I want to talk about your solutions, because you have some great ideas around how do we solve this, right? You've coined this term, save the city, and I know there's some of that we're not ready to talk about yet, and you've told me that in the past, but what is your vision for Save Our City in regards to what it is that we're dealing with right now?
We're coming after the whole bag. We need the whole budget. We don't need to keep trying to get elected officials in the office. And once they get up in there, they acting like they running movements that they're not running. They're acting like they've been working with young black men. They have not been. Their police have been murdering us. They have not been on the front lines. They've been talking about abortion for white women and all kind of stuff. And now, they're doing great things for black people. But that's that fake stuff, man. We need people who's going to be focused on what's going on with young black men, young black youth. We need to end this tribalism. We need to end gang wars that are continually perpetuated by older Bloods and Crips who are in their 30s and 40s who work for the police. If you in your 30s and 40s still out here gang banging, hanging out with 17-year-olds, then you a whole demon. You a whole snitch. Even if you ain't told on nobody, you still snitching. You snitching on your own ignorance. You showing your own ignorance. You out here hanging with the youth. You ought to be running that after school program. Instead, you at a kickback drinking beers with a young girl who ain't even old enough to drink yet, and you got a daughter her age. What's going on with that? Not every gang member doing that is an informant, but most gang members I know, especially in Denver, and if you in your 30s and 40s, you still gang banging, either you probably are an informant or you know somebody who is, and you still lending them your power and your support. Gang members are very dangerous. Gang members can fight.
You mentioned the movie, and I want to bring it up real quick. I went and grabbed it. you won't be able to see it because you're on your, like you said, you're on your phone. But I want to bring it up, and then I'll bring you and I down just so that people could check it out. Bastards of the Party.
I'm from Athens Park. Bloods. Everybody calls me Bone. I've been there for pretty much my whole banging career. I started really trying to search out how did this get started. I'm saying, how did we go from being brothers to kill that nigga? Everybody knows about the Black Panthers. The Crips and Bloods are the bastard offspring of the political parties of the 60s. And so out of the ashes of the Black Panther Party came gangs, Crips, Bloods. Speaking for the hood.
Crips was about the community, cleaning it up. Could have really been something.
They all stood up and believed in something. Now look at where we're at today. Our generation has failed. I'm denouncing banging. It's bullshit.
Gangbanging is not a lifestyle. It's a death style.
Homeboy said that gang banging isn't a lifestyle, it's a death style. And that was deep. And they also talked about how when those gangs first started, they came out of the ashes of the Black Panther Party, and which it goes back to our point of who set that fire so that the Black Panther Party burnt to ashes, that these groups came out of it, and then they got turned towards fighting each other. I just think that's a very deep point. And to your point of save our city, if we have all of these killings going on, and at the same time you're not getting the support to stop these type of killings that are happening in our community, what's next for us, T?
I mean, we just got to keep pushing, man. You know, that's been my motto: keep pushing, still pushing. You know, because I'm gonna say something. As much as I said about the negativity about some Bloods and Crips, I got some Bloods and Crips who's affiliated or who've come from that culture who are with the movement and who are raising their kids and who are running after school programs and who met me at the march and who were there with red and blue bandanas too. Not very many of them.
Mm-hmm.
Not very many of them. But I want to give props to the ones that did come. I want to give props to the ones who don't work for the police and they just don't have leadership, though. That's the problem with Bloods and Crips. They were started by traumatized youth, okay? Not grown-ass men that's 45, 50 years old who have children, who have run businesses, and who are organized. Traumatized youth started these gangs. Now they've grown over the last 50 years. Now 40-something, 50 years since the early 70s. So now these traumatized youth are grown men. Some have become revolutionaries. Some have become crackheads. Some have become informants. You know, when you're dealing with poverty, man, when you're starting from the bottom, you got a little bit of everything mixed in. You know, I think that we need to keep pushing forward. I think that we need to expose those that we know are working against the best interest of the community. If you are an active Crip or an active Blood and you are a police officer, if I get a hold of your paperwork, I'm putting it on my Facebook page. That's the deal, okay? We're going to make a deal right now. Don't let me get a hold of it, okay? Or you better keep my name out your mouth and let me go ahead and yell at these white folks with my bullhorn, because I will act silly on anybody killing our people. If we need to move forward, we need to make a safe space for gang members, if they do want to get out of that culture and lifestyle, to come join our movements. Quit acting snooty, man. Some of you so-called revolutionary activists out here, y'all just some snooty patooties, man. Y'all know y'all don't want T-Rob eating none of y'all's potato salad or watching the Bronco game over there, and I ain't even out here to punch on you, you know, because y'all don't want that. Y'all looking for office. Y'all trying to run for something. That's why y'all's Facebook page is palatable. My Facebook page ain't palatable. My hat turned backwards ain't palatable. My speech ain't. I'm not palatable to even black folks, and I'm not trying to be, nor am I purposefully trying to be some out of control person. I'm gonna do what God puts on my heart, and wherever we go, we go. But that's my advice. We ain't done. We just shedding dead skin, man. I'm proud of my people, even though they co-opted a lot of that stuff that happened downtown. But there's still beautiful protests going on every day, man. It ain't got to be what I'm doing. I support what all of us is doing, even some of the people I don't agree with. I support them and I back them. I've disagreed with Tay Anderson. I was telling a brother at my house the other day that we need to, you know, even though me and Tay unfriended me a couple weeks ago, didn't refriended me last week, but I ain't gonna let nobody do nothing to Tay though, because that's a young black man. He's a young man. He's a youth. He's still 21. I'll never let nobody hurt him. We need to put protection around him. We need to put protections around you, H. So you a voice. You're the bag. So I'm the bag. You asked me earlier what we gonna do. What's the next steps for the movement? The next steps for the movement is we need that whole budget. We need to see the budget. We need to know where this public safety money is being spent. We need to know what the hell's going to happen with this homeless initiative going on that Hancock will not address while he's locking arms with protesters, but he's gassing homeless people with nowhere to go. We need to see the whole fucking budget, okay? We need all that. We need Candy C. DeBaca to stay on their necks, or we need Chris Hines to stay on their necks, or guess what? We're going to get his ass out of office. That's what we need. We need all them Aurora City Council people who claim that they can pull 6 votes, but they got 3. If they don't start pulling them 6 votes, we need to get people in office in Aurora who can get us 6 votes, who can go to a racist Aurora and get us some action. Okay, that's where we at with it. We need to get more political because that's where the money is. Okay, the money is in politics. That's where the budget is. Mayor Hancock can initiate a 6 o'clock curfew right now if he wanted to for tomorrow. He has that power. We need to take that power back from that man. That man has not used his power for us. He's used it for Tammy Dorr at Downtown Denver Partnership. Okay, so that's the movement. That's where we need to take it, y'all. We need this whole budget. I love Candy C. DeBaca. If Candy ain't doing her job, we're gonna get her ass out of office too. But she is doing her job, so I know we don't have to worry about that with Candy. But all the rest of them city council people, we need to stay. We need to stay on their helmets, man, because there's too many fake people in Denver. This is fake heaven.
Right. See if we can get him back. There you go. So I just saw right before we went live on the show that the city, that all the black and brown Northeast elected officials have officially endorsed the removing of police officers out of high schools or out of public schools inside of Denver. That just happened right as you and I were going live. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a great idea. We need counselors, not cops. And I do want to give Tay Anderson his props for spearheading that too. Man, let's get a little brother his props when we need to, and when we need to get on his neck about something. I've done that very recently. So I think it's great. Why do we need police officers in our school? Now, can some police be parked around the block just in case one of these weirdos want to go do a school shooting? Sure, just make sure you're brave enough to run in there like some of these coward cops have not. But we don't need people getting tickets for the same schoolyard fight that we used to have where they just sit you in the corner and make you hug. Now you sending a baby to jail? Man, that's insanity, man. That's cowardly right there, man. Why you handcuffing babies? Like how Brandon's son got handcuffed. I don't care how a child is acting. You can't talk to a child. You can't give them a sippy a juice or something. You can't give them something out the kitchen, at the cafeteria, huh?
Yeah,
Come on, man, that's ridiculous. These police officers have gotten out of control with the violence, and I'm gonna tell you something. Do I believe in co-opting our marches and white men throwing bottles who don't care nothing about black men? No, I ain't about that. But I tell you what, though, if we got to tear it up, then it's too bad that we feel like we even got to get violence. If it continues to happen, I'm saying this on your live show. If we got to defend ourselves physically, then that's just what they're making us do. We're trying not to, but we're not about to keep locking arms with the mayor while they keep keeping a knee on our neck either, though.
So, and I saw out, and then I'll let you go. I saw about out of Minnesota that their city council is about to introduce a resolution to abolish police officers in the city of Minnesota. What are your thoughts around abolishing the structure of policing and reimagining it in such a way like the Black Panthers, where this community policing is people supporting each other? What are your thoughts on that?
I say, great, man. Well, I don't want to live in a police state. If we can abolish the police, let's do that. Now, if you got some Minnesota Bloods and Crips raping women and hitting somebody in the head, and the other Crips ain't gonna say, "Hey, homie, we don't rape women. We're gonna handle that." I mean, then you asking for the police. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why I fight the homicide that we do to each other and You know, if somebody's beating people upside the head and they choke their girl to death, I mean, I've seen Bloods and Crips. I'd be standing right in the Holly with a group of Bloods, and we knew one of our own friends that was a child molester. And everybody was just like, I don't talk to him, Blood. Didn't nobody go say nothing to this child molester. Didn't nobody, me either. You know, I was guilty of it too, knowing good and dang well this dude done molested this little girl. But since he's a tough blood, he's the homie because he can fight and he has a gun. He has a big old bag of weed he's about to smoke with us. So
So how do you
no
do that,
matter.
Terrance? In your estimation, how do we then begin to engage ourselves in such a way that we don't have that type of behavior where it takes violence in order to deal with it?
We got to get organized, man. You know what? I'm gonna tell you something. I posted up the paperwork of a blood who went live threatening my life yesterday, and I had 20 people hopping on there. So if you could go look on my Facebook page, you talked about the vitriol that I got today for standing up to gang members who work for the racist white men, but you're still gang banging. A lot of those accounts are fake accounts. I even got a local activist. I'm gonna say his name. So he doesn't sue me. I may be wrong, but I've caught Jesse Paris. He's an activist with the homeless down on the 5 Points. Jesse Paris has attacked me as recently as today on a fake book account, and I'm standing up to gang members. But yet he's down there wearing blue like he's a Crip, even though he's not a Crip. I even got activists like him blasting me with fake accounts instead of standing with me against the same Crips who work for the police and the murdering people. Hell, he even stood up for Hancock, who it's his baby. The urban camping ban is his literal baby, but he's fighting the urban camping ban and stood for Michael Hancock and was gassing me and you for trying to get Hancock out of office. That's that example of that fake black men's leadership we talking about. And I'm gonna say a message to you, Jesse Pierce. Stay off them fake Facebook accounts, brother.
He
Because
got
that's
like
cow
8 of
stuff.
them.
He got like 8 fake accounts. You's a whole weirdo.
But and that's what I
You's
think,
a whole informant to me. That's informant type stuff, Jesse. Call Sharif. Get my number from Sharif Alim. And then call me. My name is Terrance Roberts.
and you know what that really speaks to, and on a certain level, T, and then for real, we're going to get out of here, is that we have some serious mental health issues. And how could we not have mental health issues after living in America for 400 years with these wild ass Europeans that were let out of the dungeons of Europe? How could we not have and taken on those mental health issues? We need like a whole army of mental health professionals to help us deal with the illness that pervades inside of our communities. And so I saw people post up counselors, not cops. And I think that's really that's really key.
Yeah, so
for that.
So, you know, let's talk about mental health. You know, we have different kinds of trauma. We have situational trauma. We have continuous trauma. We have shared trauma. We have community-wide trauma. So let's look at an example of the 5 Points of Park Hill, Watts. That's not only a shared community trauma, but then there's personal traumas, witnessing homicides, being gunned down, being in domestic violence relationships. Man, we already traumatized people who've come from nothing but trauma. We've been traumatized since we got here. Black people have learned to counsel our own selves. Okay, you know, but too often we are smoking too much weed, drinking too much, joining negative peer groups, beating our women, yelling at our children. You know, we can all do better around a lot of these issues. But what I'm saying is, yes, there is a lot of trauma in the community. And, you know, some of that trauma we need to heal. But, hey, if that's the kind of trauma we need to go do a march and go kick some ass, then, hey, some of that trauma is good for us, too. I mean, you know, you're not going to get a college kid in the ring with Mike Tyson. You're going to get a fighter in there. So, you know, we'll heal later. Man, you talked about this yesterday. We're in a war right now. Right now, we young. We collecting the war wounds. When we become elders, we'll heal then. Right now, you know, I need a little bit of this trauma, man, so I could go and get in there swinging, man. You got to be a little. If you ain't a little crazy nowadays, then you must be living under a rock.
Takes a little bit of that. Yo, T-Rob, as always, man, I really appreciate you following through the Righteous Rage podcast and breaking it down.
Yes, sir.
Listen, you have a home here, for real. Always got a platform. You always come with a really grassroots, gritty perspective that my father, may he rest in peace, would really appreciate the shit you talk. I wish that he was around just to hear a little bit of it, just to know that he didn't leave a city completely void of radical shit talking, quality shit, PhD level shit talking that he was that him and Uncle were proud of. So I really want to thank you for coming on the show once again. Hopefully you'll make regular appearances. We want to holler at you next week. As well. We're going to be talking about voting next week and black votes and things of that nature. So I'm really excited to have that conversation. Any last words? How do people get in contact with you? How can people stay connected to what it is that you're doing?
All right, so right now I got 4,000 friend requests, but my Facebook page is full, and I cannot keep going down my Facebook page. It takes me half an hour to delete 3 people because I know everybody. I'm like, I can't really deal. I'm deleting 3 people to add 3 people. So
you got to transfer now. You got to transfer.
Yeah, I got to
up to that next level.
I got to transfer, man. So I'm about to. But for right now, my messenger works. Inbox me, hit me up. I'll contact you. I'll call you. The campaign is Save Our City. The marathon continues. One love to the Bloods and Crips who are revolutionary, who are ready to be radicalized for the people, who are standing on the front line with us. For the rest of you Bloods and Crips that's working for the white man, I don't have no love for you. I'm on your neck. I'm on your helmet. We standing up to white supremacy. We standing up to anything that's coming against our people. I love my people. I am not ashamed of my people. I am here for my people, and I'm proud of my people, and I am proud of the protest that we are doing, not only downtown, but what's going on in Aurora too, because Aurora police are very racist, and we're gonna get on their neck too, since they like to kill kids for wearing masks. Yeah, we got a problem with that.
And that's what's up. Right on, man. So we'll holler next week.
Hey, God bless, man, and thank you everybody for taking your time to listen to me. One love, peace.
Yo, that actually just happened, y'all. Listen, every time I have T-Rob, and the truth of the matter is, I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna let you all in on a little secret. Me and T-Rob call each other and have these same type of conversations, a little more cussing and a lot more laughing, so y'all wouldn't even be able to understand, gassing the foolishness that's out here. But I'm glad that you all got to, continue to be exposed to his thoughts and his ideas. And I'm gonna say something very personal right now as I close out this show. And my mom's not on here right now, but if she were, she would be able to verify this. My father was the head of the Denver party, of the Denver Black Panther Party, and when it came time for him to defend himself, he too had to shoot somebody up in Skyland Rec Center. People don't know that, but he shot a fire chief over there who was trying to bully him. Because he was the leader of the Black Panther Party. And what I saw happen with him is that the community completely scattered away from and left and didn't deal with him anymore. And I see that same behavior where we have those black men and women in our community who can talk to the most violent, to the most lost among us. We as a community ostracize those people and don't give them access to platforms and resources that they need in order to go and heal those of us. Because listen, let me keep it 100 with you. I ain't rolling up on no Crip and no Blood, young 18, 19-year-old. I ain't about that life. I'll come to a school and talk to them, but I'm not about to go into the trap house. I didn't grow up like that. That ain't who I am. And I recognize that ain't who I am, which is why I know that we need people like T-Rob who's willing and able to do that. So we can't push people like that out and try to quiet their voice. It doesn't make any sense. And so from that perspective, I just want to say how much I love Terrance Roberts and his activism and his voice. No, he's not perfect, but none of us are. And I see our liberation like a highway, a super highway. And a super highway has about 8 or 9 lanes on this highway. And he occupies his lane very well. And we don't need to go and critique him for not riding in the far left lane. You ride in the far left lane. If you're about doing things your particular way and putting on a suit, and do that. You do that, but don't disrespect somebody that wears their hat on backwards and, you know, comes out of a gang culture. Don't disrespect that. And the same applies vice versa. We're going to need, in order for us to have and reach liberation, we're going to need all 8 lanes on this superhighway, which means we're going to need all different types of voices headed in the same direction, pushing, as our elders in the 60s would say, headed towards freedom land. So on that note, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to this edition of the Righteous Rage podcast. We will be coming to you Tuesday. We got a great show lined up for you Tuesday that I'm super excited about. In the meantime, in the between time, please remember, it is our duty to love and protect one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains. This is H Soul, and on behalf of everyone at the Righteous Rage podcast, until next week, love, peace, educate, organize, and agitate. H Soul, out.